My name is Maribel Jones. I am 74 years old. And the night I slept on a cold bus bench with my purse under my head, I finally understood something painful. I had given them everything, and they had left me with nothing. Before I begin, let me ask you something. If you enjoy deep, emotional stories about family, strength, and second chances, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss stories like mine. And please, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I want to know who is here with me. Now listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you still makes my hands shake. The shocking part came first. Not the arguments, not the insults, the silence. It was late. The house lights were off. The door clicked shut behind me. And suddenly, I wasn't inside anymore. I stood there, holding a small plastic bag with my clothes, staring at the dark street like it had betrayed me. I knocked once, then twice. No answer. I called my daughter's name. Nothing. That was the moment it hit me. I had no key. "Mom, we talked about this," my son had said earlier that day. "You said you needed space," I replied. "No," he said flatly. "We need space, you're too much." Too much. After 40 years of cooking, cleaning, babysitting, paying bills, and raising their children while they chase their dreams. I was too much. I stood outside that house for a long time. The same house I helped pay for. The same house I kept alive. The same house I was suddenly not allowed to enter. And then it happened. The porch light turned off. That hurt more than the door closing. I walked. I didn't know where I was going. My legs ached. My chest felt tight. Cars passed by without slowing. People passed by without looking. I had never felt so invisible. I found a bus stop bench and sat down. The plastic was cold. I wrapped my coat tight and whispered to myself, "Maribel, how did you end up here?" As I sat there, memories rushed in. Me working double shifts. Me skipping meals so they could eat. Me saying, "It's okay, I'll manage." Me always managing. I remembered my daughter laughing once and saying, "Mama, you don't need money, you just sit at home." Sit at home. Like that home wasn't built on my back. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched the sky change colors. And as the sun came up, something inside me broke open. Not anger. Clarity. I said out loud. I gave them everything. And they left me with nothing. But here's what they didn't know. Well, they thought I was done. Well, they thought I was weak. Well, they thought I had nowhere to go. I remembered something important. Something I had buried under years of sacrifice. I still had my mind. I still had my name. And I still had one thing they forgot about. And when I stood up from that bench that morning, I wasn't going back to beg. I was going to remember who I was. I didn't lose everything in one day. That's the truth most people don't understand. It happened slowly. So slowly that I didn't even notice. Years ago, when my husband passed, the house became quiet. Too quiet. I was lonely. That's when my children came closer. Or so I thought. "Mom, come stay with us," my daughter said one afternoon. "You shouldn't be alone." Her voice sounded caring. I believed her. I packed my things and moved in. That was the first mistake. At first, I was welcomed. They smiled. They hugged me. They said things like, "We're so glad you're here." And I felt needed again. That feeling is dangerous when you're old. I cooked. I cleaned. I watched the grandchildren. Every morning, I woke before everyone else. Every night, I slept last. And when my body hurt, I told myself, "It's okay, family comes first." One day, my son said, "Mom, can you help with the bills? Just for now." Just for now. Those words followed me for years. I paid for groceries, then utilities, then part of the mortgage. I didn't ask questions. I trusted. After all, these were my children. When my pension came in, my daughter helped organize it. She said, "Mom, you forget things sometimes." I laughed. "I'm not that old," I replied. But she kept the papers anyway. Slowly, I stopped handling my own money. Not because I couldn't, because they said I didn't need to. The grandchildren grew older. Teenagers. Loud. Sharp-tongued. One day, I slipped in the kitchen and grabbed the counter. They laughed. "Grandma, you're so dramatic," one said. I smiled through it, but something inside me shrank. Another time, I asked them to lower the TV. One rolled his eyes. "Why are you always complaining?" Complaining. For asking for peace in a house I helped build. I noticed changes. My chair moved. My room reorganized without asking. My mail opened by mistake. But each time I thought, they're just busy. They mean well. One afternoon, I overheard my daughter say, "Mom doesn't really need all that space." Space. Like I was furniture. That night, I sat on my bed and asked myself, when did I stop being a person here? I didn't have an answer. The final shift came quietly. My son said, "We're thinking of selling the house one day." I looked up. "Selling?" I asked. "Well," he said, "it's not really yours." The word stung. "But I helped pay for it," I replied. He shrugged. "That was your choice." My choice. To support. To love. To give. From that day on, I felt it. The looks. The whispers. The way conversations stopped when I entered a room. I was no longer family. I was a burden. And still, I stayed. Because I believed love meant endurance. I was wrong. The night they locked me out didn't start with shouting. It started with my daughter saying calmly, "Mom, maybe it's time you find somewhere else." I laughed at first. Then I saw their faces. They were serious. That was when I realized something terrible. They had been preparing. For months. Quietly. Without me. And as I stood there, that night with my bag in my hand, I finally saw the truth. I hadn't been kicked out suddenly. I had been erased slowly. But what they didn't know, what none of them expected, was that I still remembered things they assumed I'd forgotten. And those memories, those documents, those quiet decisions I made years ago, were about to change everything. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The morning after the bus bench, my bones ached in places I didn't know had names. I stood up slowly, one hand on my lower back, the other holding my purse tight like it might float away if I let go. The city was waking up. People hurried past me with coffee cups and headphones, laughing, talking, living. No one looked at me. And for the first time, I understood what it felt like to be erased. I found a small diner 2 blocks down. The kind with cracked vinyl seats and a bell that rang when you opened the door. I counted my money before going in. 2 small bills. Some coins. Enough for coffee. Maybe toast. The waitress didn't rush me. She looked at my face and knew. "Sit anywhere, sweetheart," she said. I chose the corner booth. Back against the wall. Old habits. As I sipped the coffee, my hand stopped shaking. And that's when the memories came back. Not the soft ones. The sharp ones. I remembered the day my son asked me to co-sign a loan. "Just until I get on my feet," he said. I remembered the paperwork. The pen. The way I hesitated. And the way he said, "Mom, don't you trust me?" I remembered the day. My daughter asked me to put my name on a utility account. "It's just easier this way," she said. I remembered signing and not keeping the copy. I remembered selling my small house after my husband died. I remembered the check. I remembered my daughter saying, "Put it in our joint account. It'll be safer." Safer. I had believed that word. I closed my eyes in the diner booth. My chest tightened. Because suddenly, I understood something terrible. They didn't just take advantage of my kindness. They planned around it. After breakfast, I went to the public library. It was warm, quiet, and full of desks where no one asked questions. I sat at a computer and typed my name. Slowly, carefully. My fingers knew the spelling, even when my heart wanted to forget. The screen loaded. Then more pages appeared. Accounts. Records. Things I hadn't seen in years. Some were closed. Some were changed. Some were still active. In my name. I leaned back in the chair. The air left my lungs. They hadn't erased me. They had used me. A librarian came over. "You all right, ma'am?" she asked softly. "Yes," I said. That wasn't a lie. Not anymore. I printed what I could. Page after page. Dates. Numbers. Signatures I recognized. And some I didn't. I slipped the papers into my purse. Not neatly. Carefully. Like something fragile. Like proof. As I left the library, my phone buzzed. A message from my daughter. "Mom, where did you go? We need to talk." Need. Not want. I didn't reply. Not yet. I had learned the danger of answering too quickly. That afternoon, I went to a small community center. The kind with flyers on the wall and a coffee pot always half full. A woman named Lena sat behind the desk. She had kind eyes. The kind that don't rush you. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I need to understand something," I replied. She nodded. "Sit." I laid the papers out on the table. Not all of them. Just enough. Her face changed as she looked through them. Slow. Serious. "Who handled this for you?" she asked. "My children," I said. She didn't flinch. She had seen this before. "They moved things," Lena said carefully. "Yes," I replied. "They made decisions." "Yes," she said again. "But they didn't tell you everything." I shook my head. "No." She looked at me gently. "You're not crazy," she said. That sentence cracked something open in me. All those times they said, "Mom, you're confused. Mom, you don't remember. Mom, you're overthinking." I pressed my lips together. "I remember," I said. Lena nodded. "Good," she replied. That night, I stayed at a small shelter. Clean. Quiet. Simple. I slept on a narrow bed with stiff sheets. But I slept. I dreamed of my old house. The one I sold. The one with the lemon tree in the back. In the dream, I was watering it. Not rushing. Just standing there. Whole. The next morning, my phone rang again. My son this time. "Mom," he said sharply, "you can't just disappear." Disappear. Like I hadn't spent years being invisible. "I didn't disappear," I said calmly. I stepped away. He sighed. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." "No," I replied. "I'm finally seeing it clearly." He went quiet. Then said, "We were just trying to help." I smiled. A sad smile. "You helped yourselves," I replied. Then I hung up. My hands shook afterward. But my voice hadn't. That mattered. By the third day, the messages changed. From demanding to pleading. From confident To careful. Mom, please come back. We can talk. We didn't mean it like that. I read them all. I saved them. Then I turned my phone face down. That afternoon, Lena called me back into her office. I want you to understand something, she said. You still have choices. I nodded. I know. She slid a folder toward me. Not all is lost, she said. But what you do next matters. I looked at the folder, then at her. And in that moment, I realized something powerful. They thought age made me weak. But age had made me patient. I wasn't ready to go back yet. But I was ready to stand up. And when I finally walked back into that house, it would not be as a burden. It would be as someone who remembered everything. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. That evening, I sat alone in the small room the shelter gave me. A narrow bed, a chair by the window, a lamp that buzzed softly when I turned it on. It wasn't much, but it was mine. For the first time in years, no one told me where to sit, what to eat, or when to sleep. I set my purse on the bed and slowly pulled out the papers. I spread them across the blanket like puzzle pieces. Dates, names, amounts, my name, over and over again. I whispered softly, so this is where it went. Not anger. Understanding. Understanding is heavier than anger. I remembered every time my daughter said, "Don't worry about it, Mom." Every time my son said, "It's handled." Every time I felt small for asking questions. They didn't steal everything at once. They counted on me being tired. I picked up one paper and stared at the signature. It looked like mine. But it was. Not quite. The letters leaned differently. The curve of the M was wrong. My hands shook as I traced it with my finger. "They practiced," I whispered. That hurt more than the money. I lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. I thought about my grandchildren. How they laughed. How they rolled their eyes. How they learned from watching. This wasn't just about me. This was about what they were becoming. The next morning, I dressed neatly. Not fancy. Just clean. I brushed my hair slowly and put on a simple blouse I'd packed at the last minute. I wanted to look like myself again. I went back to the community center. Lena was already there. She smiled when she saw me. "You look steadier today," she said. "I feel steadier," I replied. She sat with me again. No rush. No pressure. Just time. "Do you want to go back?" she asked. I thought for a long moment. "Yes," I said. "But not to stay." She nodded. "That's an important difference." We talked about boundaries. About dignity. About how leaving doesn't always mean abandoning. Sometimes it means surviving. Later that afternoon, my phone rang again. My daughter. Her voice sounded softer now. Almost scared. "Mom, the kids are asking about you." I closed my eyes. "They know where I am," I said. "They know I'm safe." She hesitated. "They feel bad." "So do I replied. "But feeling bad doesn't fix things." She started to cry. Not loud. Quiet. The kind of crying that means control is slipping. "Come home," she said. "Please." I didn't answer right away. I looked at the papers on the table. At my name. At the proof of my patience. "I will come by," I said slowly. "But we need to talk." "Yes," she said quickly. "Yes, of course." That eagerness told me something. I ended the call and sat very still. I wasn't afraid anymore. Fear lives where confusion does. I was clear now. That night, I packed my bag carefully. Not like someone with nowhere to go. like someone choosing her next step. The following afternoon, I stood outside the house again. Same porch. Same door. Different woman. I rang the bell once. The door opened immediately. My daughter stood there. Eyes red. Hands shaking. Behind her, the house was quiet. Too quiet. "Mom," she said. I stepped inside. Slowly. I didn't hug her. Not yet. My son stood near the hallway. Arms crossed. Guarded. The grandchildren hovered behind him. Watching. Waiting. "I'm not staying," I said calmly. Their faces changed. I came to talk. We sat at the table. The same table where I used to serve meals. Where they used to laugh. Where I used to feel small. I placed one paper in the center. Just one. "I remember," I said. My son frowned. "Remember what?" "This," I replied. Silence fell hard. My daughter reached for the paper. Her hands trembled. She read it. Then read it again. Her face drained of color. "Mom," she whispered, "this is." "I know," I said. "I know exactly what it is." My son stood up. "This is ridiculous," he snapped. "You're overreacting." I looked at him calmly. "I survived raising you," I said. "I know when something is wrong." The grandchildren shifted uncomfortably. The laughter was gone now, replaced by something heavier. "I didn't come to accuse," I continued. "I came to tell you something." They leaned in. "I will not be treated like I am forgettable," I said. "I will not be spoken for. And I will not give any more without respect." My daughter cried openly now. My son looked away. The grandchildren watched in silence. "I'm leaving," I said. "Not today. But soon." That landed harder than anything else. "Where will you go?" my daughter asked. "I already know," I replied. That scared her. It should have. I stood up. "I love you," I said. But love does not mean losing myself. As I walked toward the door, my oldest grandchild spoke. "Grandma." I stopped. "I didn't think it mattered," he said quietly. I turned back. "It always mattered," I replied. I stepped outside. The door closed behind me. But this time, it didn't feel like rejection. It felt like a pause before something changed. Because now they knew. I remembered. And I wasn't done yet. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I didn't go far after I left that house. I walked 3 blocks and sat on a low brick wall near a small park. My legs were shaking. Not from fear. From release. For the first time in years, I had said everything that needed to be said. Not loud. Not angry. Just true. I watched children play on the swings. A mother pushed a stroller. An old man fed birds with crumbs from his pocket. Life kept moving. It always does. Even when yours feels like it's been turned upside down. I pulled my coat tighter around my shoulders and thought about the looks on their faces. The shock. The fear. The confusion. They had never seen me like that before. Not calm. Not steady. Not unmoved by their reactions. Back in the house, though I wasn't there to see it, things were unraveling. Slowly. Quietly. The way guilt does. My daughter stood in the kitchen long after I left. The paper still on the table. Her name next to mine. Her hands pressed flat against the surface like she needed something solid to hold on to. She whispered to herself, "How did I let it get this far?" No one answered. My son paced the living room. Back and forth. Back and forth. Anger sat on him like a coat he didn't know how to take off. She's being dramatic, he muttered. But his voice lacked strength. The grandchildren stayed quiet. Phones forgotten. Laughter gone. They had never seen consequences arrive without yelling before. It scared them. That evening, dinner wasn't made. No one was hungry. No one knew what to say. The house felt hollow. My daughter finally broke the silence. She's not coming back like before, she said. My son stopped packing. What do you mean? She's different, my daughter replied. She looked done. That word landed heavy. Done. My oldest grandchild spoke carefully. Did we really do something that bad? My daughter looked at him. Her eyes were red. Yes, she said. Yes, we did. Meanwhile, I checked into a small room I had arranged earlier. Not fancy. Clean. Quiet. A place with rules and dignity. A place where no one knew me as a burden. I sat on the bed and let myself breathe. Deep. Slow. I placed my purse beside me and touched it gently. Everything important was inside. My papers. My name. My memory. That night, my phone buzzed again. Messages. One after another. I didn't open them. Not yet. I thought about all the times I had apologized when I wasn't wrong. All the times I shrank myself to keep peace. All the times I stayed quiet to avoid conflict. And I realized something painful. Peace that costs you your dignity is not peace. It's surrender. Back at the house, my son finally sat down. He stared at the wall. You think she'll tell people? He asked. My daughter looked at him sharply. Tell them what? She said. The truth, she added. That scared him. Because truth doesn't need anger to travel. It moves on its own. One of the grandchildren spoke quietly. Grandma didn't even yell. No one replied. They all understood what that meant. I turned off the light in my room and lay down. Sleep didn't come easily. But calm did. And calm felt like strength. As I stared into the dark, I whispered to myself. I didn't walk away to punish them. I walked away to protect myself. And somewhere across town, in a house full of silence, they were finally beginning to feel the weight of everything I used to carry. But this was only the beginning. Because guilt doesn't stay quiet for long. And tomorrow would force them to face themselves. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The night stretched long for everyone. For me, it was quiet. For them, it was restless. I woke up before sunrise. Not because of noise. Because my body was used to waking early for everyone else. Old habits die slowly. I sat up in bed and listened. No footsteps. No voices. Just the hum of a heater and distant traffic. For the first time in years, the silence felt safe. I made myself a cup of tea, using the small electric kettle in the room. Held the mug with both hands. Let the warmth settle into my fingers. I whispered softly. This is what peace feels like. Across town, peace was nowhere near that house. My daughter barely slept. She kept replaying my words in her head. I remember. I'm not staying. Love does not mean losing myself. She sat up in bed and stared at the ceiling. Every memory suddenly looked different. Me folding laundry late at night. Me sitting quietly during arguments. Me always saying yes. She turned toward my son, who lay awake beside her. She wasn't confused, my daughter said quietly. My son didn't answer. She knew, she continued. She always knew. My son rolled onto his side. That doesn't mean we did anything wrong, he muttered. But his voice didn't sound sure. In the other room, the grandchildren lay awake too. Phones dark. Thoughts loud. The youngest hugged his pillow tightly. He had never seen Grandma leave like that. Not angry. Not crying. Just finished. By morning, the house felt heavy. Like the walls were listening. Breakfast didn't happen. Everyone drifted through the kitchen without purpose. My daughter stared at the empty chair where I used to sit. She reached out and touched it, then pulled her hand back quickly. "We need to fix this," she said. My son sighed. "She's being stubborn." "No," my daughter replied firmly. "She's done being invisible." That word again. Invisible. The oldest grandchild spoke up. "I laughed," he admitted. No one looked at him. "I didn't think it hurt her," he added. My daughter turned slowly. "That doesn't mean it didn't," she said. Her voice cracked. That was the first time they truly talked about it. Not money. Not space. Pain. Meanwhile, I walked to a small grocery store near my room. I moved slowly. My body still sore, but my steps felt lighter. I picked up fruit, bread, soup, simple things. Things that were mine. The cashier smiled at me. "Good morning," she said. "Good morning," I replied. No pity. No judgment. Just a greeting. It felt good. Back at the house, my son found himself standing in my old room. The room they'd slowly taken over. He looked around. The half-empty drawers. The faded photos. The smell of lavender lotion I used every night. He sat on the bed. For the first time, guilt settled on him fully. Not sharp. Heavy. "She was always here," he whispered. "She's not supposed to leave." But she had. By midday, my daughter called me again. Her name flashed on my phone. I let it ring. Then I answered. "Yes," I said calmly. Her voice broke immediately. "Mom, I'm sorry." I closed my eyes. That word mattered. But it wasn't enough yet. "I didn't protect you," she continued. "I didn't listen." I breathed slowly. "I know," I said. Silence followed. "Will you come back?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. "Not yet," I said finally. She exhaled shakily. "What do we do?" she asked. I chose my words carefully. "You sit with what you did," I replied. "You feel it." She didn't argue. That told me she was finally listening. That evening, I wrote in my notebook. Not angry words. Clear ones. Boundaries. Needs. Choices. I wrote until my hand ached. Then I stopped. I realized something important. I wasn't planning revenge. I was planning my life. Back at the house, dinner was cooked that night. Awkwardly. Quietly. No laughter. No jokes. They ate in silence. Every empty space reminded them of me. The youngest finally spoke. "Do you think Grandma is okay?" My daughter nodded slowly. "Yes," she said. "And that scares me. Because if I was okay without them, then they had never truly owned my strength. They had just borrowed it." That night, my phone buzzed again. A message from my oldest grandchild. "I'm sorry I laughed." I stared at it for a long time. Then I replied, "I heard you. Nothing more. Nothing less." As I turned off the light, I felt it. The shift. The power moving back to where it belonged. I whispered into the quiet room. I didn't walk away empty. I walked away awake. And in a house full of regret. They were just beginning to understand that losing me meant losing the glue that held everything together. Tomorrow would force them to face a question they'd avoided for years. Not how to fix me, but how to face themselves. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The first thing I did for myself was something small. I bought a notebook that didn't belong to anyone else. Not for bills. Not for reminders. Not for helping. Just for me. I sat at the small desk in my room and wrote my name across the first page. Maribel Jones. Big letters. Clear. I stared at it for a long time. I had written that name on so many papers for other people. Loan forms. School papers. Utility bills. But this one felt different. This one was mine. Back at the house, they were learning something uncomfortable. Without me, nothing flowed smoothly. Not the mornings. Not the meals. Not the moods. My daughter stood in the kitchen, staring at a sink full of dishes. She hadn't noticed how quickly I used to clean them. How quietly. How I never complained. My son was late to work for the second day in a row. No lunch packed. No reminder about his keys. No calm voice saying, "Don't forget." He snapped at everyone. Anger filling the space where help used to be. The grandchildren argued over small things. Who left the lights on? Who ate the last slice of bread? Who forgot to lock the door? Things I used to handle without being asked. "This house is a mess," my son muttered. My daughter looked at him sharply. "It was only smooth because Mom was holding it together," she said. He scoffed. "That's not fair." "No," she replied. "What wasn't fair was how we treated her." That sentence hung in the air. No one rushed to clear it. Meanwhile, I attended a small workshop at the community center. Nothing fancy. Just a group of older women sitting in a circle. Talking. Listening. When it was my turn, I hesitated. Then I said it. My children used me until I had nothing left. No gasps. No shock. Just nods. One woman leaned forward. "They always do that when you don't set limits," she said gently. Another added, "And they panic when you finally do." I smiled sadly. "Yes," I said, "they're panicking now." Back home, panic was turning into blame. My son snapped. "Why didn't you say something sooner?" My daughter shot back. "She did, you just didn't listen." The grandchildren watched it all unfold. For the first time, they saw their parents uncertain. Not in control. That night, my daughter cried alone in the bathroom. She remembered every time she dismissed me. Every joke she didn't stop. Every moment she chose comfort over courage. She whispered to herself, "I thought she'd always be there." And finally, understood how dangerous that thought had been. That same night, I made a simple dinner for myself. Soup. Bread. Tea. I ate slowly. No rushing. No cleaning up after others. I noticed my shoulders were lower. My jaw unclenched. My breathing deeper. I wrote again in my notebook. I am not here to be useful. I am here to be human. Back at the house, my son slept poorly. He dreamed of the door closing. Over and over. No matter how fast he ran, he couldn't reach it. In the morning, he woke angry. Then afraid. Then quiet. The grandchildren spoke less. They moved carefully. Like the house might break if they weren't gentle. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. A message from my son. "Mom, can we talk?" I stared at it. Then placed the phone face down. Not yet. Because something important was happening. They were finally talking to each other. And that mattered more than talking to me. I went for a walk. The sun felt warm on my face. I passed people who didn't know my story. And for once, that felt like freedom. I sat on a bench and watched leaves move in the wind. And I realized something powerful. I wasn't rebuilding to prove them wrong. I was rebuilding because I deserved peace. Back at the house, my daughter said something she had never said before. "This is on us." My son looked at her. No, he started. She held up her hand. No more excuses. That moment changed the room. Because accountability had entered. And accountability is uncomfortable. As evening fell, I returned to my room. I felt tired, but not empty. I whispered to myself, they left me with nothing. But I'm learning how much nothing can become when it finally belongs to me. And tomorrow would bring the first real test. Because rebuilding yourself is quiet. But facing what you destroyed, that's loud. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. That night, I slept deeper than I had in years. Not because my body wasn't tired. Because my mind wasn't fighting anymore. I woke just before dawn, the room still dark, and for a moment I forgot where I was. Then I remembered. I smiled. I stretched slowly and sat up, feeling my age but not resenting it. Age meant I had survived. Age meant I had learned. Age meant I didn't have to rush anymore. Back at the house, no one slept well. My daughter lay awake, replaying old moments like broken film clips. Me standing at the stove. Me folding clothes silently. Me sitting alone in the living room while everyone else laughed. She realized something that made her chest ache. I had always been present, but she hadn't always been kind. My son woke early and went straight to the kitchen. He opened the fridge. Nothing ready. No labeled containers. No notes. No, I saved this for you. He slammed the fridge shut harder than needed. Then stopped. His anger had nowhere to land. And that scared him. The grandchildren woke quietly. No music. No shouting. They moved like guests in their own home. At breakfast, my daughter finally said it out loud. We treated Mom like she was permanent. My son scoffed. She is permanent, she's our mother. She shook her head. No, she replied, she's a person. That stopped him. Meanwhile, I made my bed neatly and opened my notebook again. I read what I'd written the night before. Then I added more. Not complaints. Plans. I wrote about what I wanted. Not what others needed. Simple things. Privacy. Choice. Respect. Time. I circled one word 3 times. Dignity. Later that morning, I visited a small senior housing office. Just to ask questions. Just to listen. Just to remind myself I had options. The woman behind the desk smiled warmly. We have waiting lists, she said. That's okay, I replied. I'm not in a hurry. And for the first time, that was true. Back at the house, tension turned inward. My son snapped at the kids. They snapped back. My daughter finally raised her voice. Enough. Everyone froze. We don't get to be angry, she said. We don't get to be victims. Silence followed. Then something unexpected. My son sat down. Hard. I didn't think she'd actually leave, he muttered. My daughter stared at him. That's the problem. The grandchildren watched their parents crumble. Not dramatically. Quietly. And that quiet scared them more than shouting ever could. That afternoon, my phone buzzed again. A message from my daughter. Mom, I'm starting to understand. I read it twice. Then replied. Understanding is the first step. Nothing more. I spent the afternoon volunteering at the community center. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to. I helped organize books. I talked to other women. I laughed. Real laughter. One woman asked, "Where do you live?" I paused. Then said proudly, "I'm in transition." She smiled. That sounds like growth. It was. Back home, My daughter found herself cleaning my old room. Not to take over. To honor it. She folded the clothes she hadn't touched in weeks. She straightened the photos. She cried quietly when she found an old note I'd written years ago. Don't forget to eat. That evening, the grandchildren sat together. The oldest finally spoke. I thought Grandma was just there. The youngest nodded. I didn't think she could leave. They all sat with that truth. That night, my son stood alone on the porch. The same porch where the light had been turned off on me. He stared at the street. And for the first time, he felt small. I returned to my room and cooked a simple dinner. I ate slowly. Then I washed my own dishes. I noticed something strange. I wasn't exhausted afterward. I sat by the window and watched the sky change colors. And I realized something quietly powerful. I wasn't rebuilding to go back. I was rebuilding to move forward. My phone buzzed one last time that night. A message from my oldest grandchild. I didn't know how much you did. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long time. Then replied, I know. Because I did. As I turned off the light, I whispered to myself. They had to face each other. And I had to face myself. And in doing so, I had already taken back something they could never touch again. My worth. Tomorrow would bring a new challenge. Not from them. From me. Because choosing yourself after a lifetime of giving is the hardest habit to learn. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The hardest part wasn't leaving them. It was choosing myself without feeling guilty. That morning, I woke up before my alarm. The room was quiet. No one calling my name. No one asking questions. No one needing anything. Just me. I sat on the edge of the bed and felt something unfamiliar. Freedom. It didn't feel loud. It felt careful. Like something new learning how to breathe. I washed my face slowly and looked at myself in the mirror. Really looked. Not to check if I looked tired. Not to see if someone else approved. Just to see me. Good morning, Maribel, I said softly. Hearing my own name out loud felt strange. But good. I dressed in a simple outfit. A soft blue blouse. Comfortable pants. Shoes that didn't hurt my feet. I wasn't dressing to impress anyone. I was dressing to move. Back at the house, my daughter woke up with a tight chest. She reached for her phone immediately. No new messages. That scared her more than anger. She's really serious, she whispered to herself. Yes, I was. Meanwhile, I walked to a small cafe near the community center. I had passed it before, but never gone in. I always had somewhere else to be. Someone else to help. The bell rang when I opened the door. A young man behind the counter smiled. What can I get you? I paused. I wasn't used to being asked that. What do you recommend? I asked. He smiled wider. Coffee and a muffin. That sounds perfect, I replied. I sat by the window and sipped slowly. I watched people pass. Some rushing. Some laughing. Some alone like me. But I didn't feel lonely. As I ate, I thought about the decision I had been avoiding. The one Lena mentioned. The one written quietly in my notebook. I had an appointment that afternoon. I hadn't told anyone. Not my children. Not my grandchildren. Not even Lena yet. Back at the house, tension continued to simmer. My son snapped at the kids again. My daughter shut him down. We don't get to act like this anymore, she said. He rolled his eyes. You're acting like she's gone forever. She looked at him. She might be. That landed hard. I finished my coffee and stood up. My legs felt steady. That mattered. The building was only 4 blocks away. A modest place. Brick walls. Wide doors. A sign that read, Independent Living Options. I stopped outside for a moment. My heart beat faster. Not fear. Anticipation. Inside, a woman greeted me warmly. "Welcome," she said. "My name is Carol." "I'm Marable," I replied. She shook my hand. Firm. Respectful. We sat in a small office. Sunlight through the window. Plants on the sill. It felt calm. "Tell me what you're looking for," Carol said. I took a breath. "I'm looking for a place where I don't have to explain myself," I replied. She smiled gently. "That's a good place to start." We talked about options. Costs. Waiting lists. Shared spaces. Private spaces. Rules. Rights. When she explained the rights, my chest tightened. Privacy. Choice. Respect. Those words again. "You don't have to decide today," Carol said. I nodded. "I know," I replied. But something inside me already had. Back at the house, my daughter finally confronted my son. "We crossed a line," she said. He scoffed. "She's being dramatic." She stared at him. "No," she said. "She's being done." I stood up from the chair and thanked Carol. She handed me a brochure. "Take your time," she said. I smiled. "I will," I replied. As I walked out, I felt taller. Not physically. Inside. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. A message from my son. "Mom, when are you coming home?" I stared at it. Then I typed slowly. "I'm not coming home." I put the phone back in my purse. Heart steady. Hands calm. I walked back toward my room. The city felt different now. Not threatening. Open. I realized something as I crossed the street. This decision wasn't about proving anything. It was about choosing peace over permission. And once you make that choice, there's no going back to who you were before. That evening, I sat on my bed and opened my notebook again. I wrote one sentence. I choose myself. Back at the house, my son read my message. Read it again. And for the first time, panic rose in his chest. Real panic. Because he finally understood something. This time, I wasn't waiting for them to change. I was changing my life without them. And tomorrow would force them to see just how serious I was. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. That night, I slept with the brochure on my bedside table. Not because I was unsure. Because I wanted to remind myself that choice was real. I woke once in the middle of the night. Reached for my phone out of habit. Then stopped. No one needed me. No one was waiting for instructions. That realization felt strange. And good. In the early morning, I dressed neatly again. Same blue blouse. Clean shoes. Hair brushed carefully. Not to be seen. To be ready. Back at the house, my daughter woke up with a tight feeling in her chest. She checked her phone. Still no message from me. That silence pressed harder than any argument. "She really meant it," she whispered. "Yes, I did." Meanwhile, I returned to the community center. Lena was at her desk, sorting papers. She looked up and smiled. "You look different today," she said. "I made a decision," I replied. She nodded slowly. "That usually does it." We sat together again. I told her about the place. The office. The rights. The feeling. She listened carefully. Then said something I'll never forget. "People think independence is about money," she said. "But it's really about permission." I smiled. I stopped asking for it. That afternoon, my daughter called again. Her voice was calmer. Careful. Mom, she said, can we meet? I thought for a moment. Yes, I replied. But not to go back. Silence followed. I understand, she said quietly. That was new. We met at a small park. Neutral ground. She arrived early. Hands clasped. Eyes tired. I didn't know how much you were carrying, she said. I told you, I replied gently. You didn't hear me. She nodded. I hear you now. She asked the question she'd been avoiding. Are you moving out for good? I met her eyes. Yes, I said. She swallowed hard. But I'm not cutting you off, I continued. I'm just choosing myself. Tears slipped down her face. I wish I had done better, she said. So do I replied. Back at the house, my son grew restless. He paced again. Checked his phone. No reply from me. No instructions. No reassurance. He snapped at the kids. Then stopped himself. He remembered my calm voice. I'm not coming home. That evening, I made another visit. Back to Carol's office. She smiled when she saw me. Back already? She asked. Yes, I replied. I'm ready. We talked through details. Forms. Dates. Options. I signed my name carefully. This time, every letter was mine. As I stood up, Carol said softly, You look relieved. I am, I replied. When I walked out of the building, the sky was turning gold. I stood still for a moment. Let the air fill my lungs. This was mine. All of it. Back at the house, the realization hit my son fully. She's not coming back, he said aloud. My daughter nodded. She's choosing herself. He sat down heavily. What does that mean for us? She didn't answer. Because the answer scared them both. That night, I returned to my room. Packed my bag again. But this time, it wasn't temporary. This time, it was intentional. I folded each piece of clothing slowly. Carefully. Not rushed. Not emotional. Just clear. I placed my notebook on top. The brochure beneath it. And my papers in a separate folder. Organized. Protected. Mine. My phone buzzed one last time that night. A message from my son. I didn't think you'd really do this. I stared at it. Then typed. Neither did I until I did. I turned off the light and lay down. My heart was calm. My mind quiet. I whispered into the darkness. I gave them everything. But I didn't give away my ending. Tomorrow would be a turning point. Not because they would change, but because I already had. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The first morning after I made the decision official, I felt lighter. Not happy. Not excited. Just lighter. Like I had set something heavy down after carrying it for too long. I woke up before sunrise again, but this time I didn't rush. I stayed in bed and listened to the quiet. Not the nervous quiet of waiting for someone to wake up. The honest quiet of being alone with myself. I made tea and sat by the window. Outside, the city moved slowly. A woman walked her dog. A man unlocked his shop. Life didn't know my story. And it didn't need to. Back at the house, everything felt wrong. The kitchen was messy. The trash overflowed. No one remembered trash day. That had always been my job. My daughter stood staring at the calendar. She frowned. Did Mom pay the water bill already? She asked. My son shook his head. I don't know. That answer had never existed before. They searched drawers. Old folders. Stacks of mail. They found my handwriting everywhere. Notes. Dates. Reminders. All the quiet ways I had kept their lives running. The grandchildren watched. Silent. Uncomfortable. They had never noticed how much work silence carried. That afternoon, I visited the new place again. Not to sign anything. Just to walk through. To feel it. The hallways smelled clean. Soft. Neutral. No memories attached. That mattered. I stood in one of the empty rooms. Sunlight came through the window. I imagined my chair there. My plant. My books. My quiet. Back at the house, panic started to replace confusion. My son snapped. Why didn't she tell us where everything was? My daughter shot back. Why didn't we ever ask? Silence followed. I returned to my room and began giving things away. Not throwing them out. Passing them forward. Extra clothes. Old kitchen tools. Things I didn't need anymore. Each item I gave away felt like releasing a version of myself. The woman who always prepared for everyone else. The woman who stayed ready just in case. That evening, my daughter called again. Her voice sounded tired. "Mom, the house feels empty," she said. I closed my eyes. "Yes," I replied. "That's what happens when someone stops holding it together." She sighed. "We didn't know." "I know," I said. "But not knowing doesn't erase impact." At night, I slept deeply. Dreamless. Restful. Meanwhile, at the house, the youngest grandchild cried quietly. "I miss Grandma," he whispered. The oldest sat on the floor beside him. "I do too," he admitted. They didn't miss my cooking. Or my cleaning. They missed my presence. And that was new. The next morning, I woke and wrote in my notebook again. Absence teaches what words cannot. That afternoon, I went to the park. Sat on a bench. Watched birds hop across the grass. I smiled at a stranger. They smiled back. Small things mattered now. Back at the house, my daughter finally said the words out loud. We treated her like she would never leave. My son rubbed his face. "She raised us to be strong," he muttered. "Yes," my daughter replied. "And we used that against her." That truth hurt. It should have. My phone buzzed again. A message from my oldest grandchild. "Grandma, can I come see you?" I stared at it. Long. Thoughtfully. I didn't reply right away. Because even love needs boundaries. As the sun set, I realized something quietly powerful. I no longer felt pulled back. I felt grounded where I was. And when you stop being pulled, you start choosing. Tomorrow would bring the real test. Not for them. For me. Because forgiveness is easy to promise. But deciding how close someone gets again, that takes courage. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I didn't answer my grandchild's message that night. Not because I didn't care, but because I was learning something new. Love doesn't mean immediate access. I set my phone face down and went asleep. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty about it. The next morning, I woke to rain tapping gently against the window. Soft. Steady. The kind of rain that cleans instead of floods. I made breakfast for myself. Just enough. Not extra. Not rushed. I ate slowly, tasting every bite. That alone felt like rebellion. Back at the house, the rain caused chaos. A leak under the sink. Water pooling on the floor. My daughter searched for towels. "Where does Mom keep the wrench?" she asked. My son didn't answer. He didn't know. They called a plumber. Expensive. Late. Annoyed. They complained about the cost. And for the first time, my daughter stopped him. She used to handle all this, she said. She saved us this money. My son looked away. That afternoon, I walked to the library. I hadn't been there in years. I used to take the kids, then the grandkids. Never myself. I ran my fingers along the shelves, pulled out a book just because I liked the cover, sat by the window, read for hours. No interruptions, no demands. Back at the house, the grandchildren argued. Dishes piled up. Laundry sat undone. Dinner was late. The youngest asked quietly, "Why does Grandma live here anymore?" My daughter swallowed hard. "Because we didn't take care of her," she said. The truth finally said out loud. That evening, my phone buzzed again. Another message from my grandchild. "I'm sorry if we were mean." That one cracked my chest open. I replied carefully. "I love you, but Grandma needed space to heal." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. "Can I see you someday?" I stared at the words. Someday. Not now. That mattered. "Yes," I replied, "when I'm ready." I didn't explain further. I didn't need to. The next few days passed quietly. And loudly. Quiet for me. Loud for them. Bills missed. Appointments forgotten. Arguments sparked. Then something else happened. They started talking. Really talking. My daughter admitted she was overwhelmed. My son admitted he had relied on me too much. The grandchildren admitted they had taken me for granted. None of that reached me directly. I didn't need it to. I could feel the shift. One afternoon, I sat on a bench outside my future apartment building, just watching people come and go. A woman my age waved at me. "New?" she asked. "Almost," I replied. She smiled. "Best kind." Back at the house, my son sat alone in the living room. He stared at the chair I used to sit in. "Empty," he finally whispered. I didn't mean to break her. No one answered. That night, my daughter sent a long message. Not excuses. Not apologies stacked together. Just acknowledgement. "We failed you, I see it now." I read it twice. Then once more. I didn't reply right away. Because recognition doesn't require response. Not immediately. I went to bed feeling something unexpected. Peace. Not closure. Peace. The next morning, I received a call from Carol. "Your room is ready whenever you are," she said. I smiled. "Thank you," I replied. "I'll be there tomorrow." I hung up and sat quietly. Tomorrow. A word that finally belonged to me. Back at the house, my daughter gathered everyone. "She's not coming back," she said. "But we can still do better." The room was silent. Then the oldest grandchild nodded. "We should." That was the moment it shifted. Not because I returned, but because I didn't. That evening, I packed the last of my things. Folded carefully. Intentionally. I wasn't leaving behind pieces of myself anymore. I wrote one last note in my notebook. I am not disappearing. I am arriving. As I turned off the light, I realized something powerful. My absence had done what my presence never could. It taught them, and it taught me something too. I was never too much. I was just in the wrong place. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The morning I moved into my new place, the air felt different. Not lighter. Clearer. Like a window had been opened somewhere deep inside me. I arrived with one suitcase, 2 boxes, and a calm heart. No rushing. No second thoughts. No one telling me where to put things. Carol greeted me with the same steady smile. "Welcome home," she said. I paused. No one had said those words to me in a long time. "Thank you," I replied, meaning it. The room was small but bright. Sunlight touched the floor. The walls were clean. Empty. Waiting. I placed my suitcase down and sat on the bed. Just sat. And breathed. This space didn't ask anything from me. Back at the house, the realization had fully settled in. I was gone. Not visiting. Not cooling off. Gone. My daughter stood in the doorway of my old room. The bed made neatly. The dresser empty. No shoes by the door. No cardigan on the chair. "She really left," my son said quietly. "Yes," my daughter replied. And she meant it. That afternoon, my phone rang. My daughter's name lit up the screen. I let it ring. Not out of anger. Out of respect for myself. I unpacked slowly. My books first. Then my clothes. Then my framed photo. The one of me smiling alone. Not surrounded. Just me. Back at the house, guilt turned into urgency. My daughter called again. Voicemail. "Mom, please, we just want to talk." I listened. Then set the phone down. Because wanting to talk isn't the same as being ready to listen. I went for a walk around the building. Met neighbors. A woman named June. A man named Harold. They asked my name. They didn't ask my history. That mattered. That evening, my oldest grandchild sent another message. "Grandma, Mom is crying." I closed my eyes. "I know," I whispered. I typed back carefully. "I love you. Crying doesn't mean harm, it means learning." Back at the house, my daughter wiped her face. "She's changed," she said. My son nodded. "She's not bending." "No," my daughter replied. "She's standing." That night, I cooked dinner for myself. Simple. Quiet. No complaints. No leftovers to store. As I washed my plate, I noticed my hands. Steady. No shaking. No rush. That's when I realized something. My body knew I was safe. The next morning, I finally returned the call. I chose the time. I chose the tone. "Mom," my daughter said quickly, "thank you for calling." I didn't call to explain, I replied gently. I called to set terms. Silence. "We want to see you," she said. "I'm open to that," I replied. "But not at the house." Another pause. "Where then?" she asked. "Somewhere neutral," I said. And for a short time. Back at the house, my son listened on speaker. He frowned. "She's serious," he whispered. "Yes," my daughter replied. "She always was, we just ignored it." We agreed on a cafe. 2 days later. 1 hour. No surprises. No ambushes. I hung up and felt something settle inside me. Control. Not power over them. Power over myself. That afternoon, I sat by my window and wrote again. Reconnection without respect is repetition. The days passed slowly. I filled them with small joys. Morning walks. Library visits. Quiet conversations. Back at the house, tension mixed with hope. The grandchildren asked questions. Will Grandma hug us? Will she smile? My daughter answered honestly. I don't know. And that was the truth. Because forgiveness doesn't arrive on demand. It walks in when it's ready. The night before the meeting, I laid out my clothes. Simple. Comfortable. Strong. Not armor. Just me. As I turned off the light, I whispered, I am not going back to who I was. And somewhere across town, they lay awake too, wondering which version of me would walk through that cafe door. They had no idea. Because neither did I. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The cafe smelled like coffee and baked bread. Warm. Neutral. Safe. That was why I chose it. No walls filled with memories. No rooms where I had swallowed my words. Just a table. 4 chairs. And the truth waiting to sit down. I arrived 10 minutes early. Picked a seat near the window. My back to the wall. I wanted to see everything. When they walked in, I recognized the sound of hesitation. Feet slowing. Eyes searching. My daughter saw me first. She froze. Then whispered my name. Mom. The grandchildren followed. Quiet. No laughter. No phones. My son came last. His shoulders were tense. His smile didn't reach his eyes. I stood up. Not rushed. Not stiff. I hugged the grandchildren first. One at a time. Firm. Brief. Honest. Then my daughter. She held on longer than I expected. I let her. For a moment. Then I stepped back. My son cleared his throat. Mom. I nodded. That was all. We sat. No one spoke at first. The silence wasn't awkward. It was earned. My daughter finally broke it. You look different. I smiled softly. I feel different. She swallowed. We didn't know how bad it was. I tilted my head slightly. I told you, I said. You just didn't listen. My son shifted in his chair. We didn't mean to hurt you. I looked at him. Intent doesn't erase impact, I replied. The words landed heavy. The oldest grandchild spoke next. We thought you were just strong. I nodded. I am strong, I said. But strength is not permission. My daughter's eyes filled with tears. We took you for granted. Yes, I replied. You did. No yelling. No blame thrown back and forth. Just facts. Clear. Unavoidable. My son leaned forward. So what happens now? That question used to scare me. Not anymore. Now, I said calmly, we rebuild differently. He frowned. What does that mean? It means I don't live with you, I said. It means I don't manage your lives. It means I choose when and how I show up. My daughter nodded slowly. You're not cutting us off. No, I replied. But I am setting boundaries. The youngest grandchild asked quietly. Does that mean you still love us? My chest tightened. Yes, I said. Very much. But love doesn't mean letting people hurt you, I added. And I won't teach you that lesson by living it. That sentence changed something. I saw it in their faces. Understanding. Real understanding. My daughter reached across the table. Then stopped. May I? She asked. I appreciated that more than any apology. I nodded. She took my hand gently. I'm proud of you, she said. That was new. I smiled. So am I. We talked for the rest of the hour. Not about the past. About the future. Carefully. Respectfully. When it was time to leave, I stood first. I'm going now, I said. They nodded. No protests. No guilt. The grandchildren hugged me again. Longer this time. I held them. But I didn't shrink myself to fit their arms. My daughter whispered. Thank you for coming. I replied. Thank you for listening. My son hesitated. Then said quietly. I'm sorry. I met his eyes. I accept that, I said. But acceptance doesn't erase memory. Outside, the air felt cool. Clean. I walked away slowly. No rush. No looking back. Inside the cafe, they sat in silence. Not broken. Changed. And as I walked home, I realized something powerful. They didn't need me to return. They needed me to remain whole. That night, I slept peacefully. Not because everything was fixed, but because nothing inside me was fractured anymore. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. After the cafe, life didn't slow down. It leaned in. Harder. Like it wanted to see if I truly meant what I said. The first test came 2 days later. Not from my children. Not from my grandchildren. From outside. From people who had always known me as the woman who helps. I was sitting in the common room of my building, reading quietly, when June walked over. She smiled kindly. "You're settling in well," she said. "I am," I replied. Then she lowered her voice. "You know, some folks here could really use your help." There it was. Old Marable would have smiled. Asked how. Offered time. Offered energy. Offered herself. New Marable paused. "What kind of help?" I asked. She gestured vaguely. "Watching someone's grandchild sometimes. Helping with errands. You're so capable." I closed my book gently. "I am," I said. "But I'm not available for that." June blinked. "Oh, I didn't mean." "I know," I said softly. "But I'm learning to say no before I disappear again." She nodded slowly. "I understand," she said. And she did. Or at least she tried. That afternoon, I walked home thinking about how often people confuse kindness with availability. How many times I had taught them that lesson myself. Back at the house, my daughter was having her own reckoning. Her phone buzzed with messages from relatives. "Where is your mother? Why did she leave? Is everything okay?" She didn't know how to answer. Because telling the truth meant telling it all. Meanwhile, my son felt pressure from another direction. Friends asked questions. Jokes were made. She finally put her foot down, huh? He laughed weakly. But inside, something twisted. That evening, my phone buzzed. A message from my sister. "I heard you moved out. Call me." I stared at it. Family. Another layer. Another test. I waited. Then I called. "You scared everyone," she said immediately. "I didn't disappear," I replied. "I relocated." She sighed. "You could have talked to them." "I did," I said. "For years." Silence followed. Then she said, "They're your family." I nodded. "Yes," I said. "And I'm part of that family too." She didn't argue. But she didn't agree either. And that was fine. The next day, I received a visit. Unexpected. My daughter stood in the lobby. Hands clasped. Eyes nervous. "I know you didn't invite me," she said. "I just wanted to drop something off." She held out a small box. Inside were old photos. Organized. Labeled. Preserved. "I found these while cleaning," she said. "You kept everything." I smiled. "Yes," I replied. I remembered when no one else did. She hesitated. "Can we talk?" I nodded. For a moment. We sat in the courtyard. She spoke quietly. "I'm realizing how much I leaned on you without noticing." I listened. Didn't interrupt. "I don't want to repeat that," she said. "I believe you," I replied. "But belief needs behavior." She nodded. "I know." That night, alone again, I wrote in my notebook. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors with locks. I decide who enters. But the hardest test hadn't come yet. It arrived the next morning. In the form of a phone call. From my son. "Mom," he said, voice strained, "we need you." Those words used to hook me instantly. This time, they landed differently. "Need me how?" I asked. "There's a situation," he said. "Bills, arguments, the kids are acting out." I closed my eyes. Listened. "I hear that you're struggling," I said. "But I won't come fix it." Silence. "So you're just going to leave us like this?" he asked. There it was. The guilt. "I didn't leave you," I replied. "I stopped rescuing you." His breath caught. "That feels the same," he said. "No," I replied gently. "It only feels that way because you're standing where I used to stand." The line went quiet. Then he said something honest. "I don't know how to do this without you." That was the moment. The real test. I spoke carefully. "You'll learn," I said. "And when you do, it will mean something." I hung up feeling shaky. Strong. Sad. Proud. All at once. Later that day, I walked by the river. Watched the water move forward. Never backward. Always finding its way around obstacles. I realized something important. Growth always feels like abandonment to those who benefited from your silence. That evening, my daughter texted. "He's angry, but I think he's learning." I replied. "So am I." As the sun set, I sat on my bed and reflected. I hadn't returned. I hadn't broken. I hadn't apologized for surviving. And tomorrow would force a choice, even harder than the last. Because love would ask for more than I was willing to give. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. That night, I didn't sleep well. Not because I doubted myself, but because growth still hurts, even when it's right. I lay awake, listening to the sounds of the building. A door closing. Footsteps in the hallway. Someone laughing softly. Life moving on. My phone sat on the table. Silent. I didn't reach for it. I had learned something important. Urgency is not always an emergency. The next morning, I woke with a heaviness in my chest. Not fear. Responsibility. The kind that comes when you know a moment is coming. I made tea and sat by the window again. The sky was gray. Not sad. Just honest. My phone rang mid-morning. My son's name. Again. I answered. "Mom," he said quickly, "I need to talk to you." "I'm listening," I replied. He took a breath. "The kids are acting out. Your daughter and I argued all night. Everything feels like it's falling apart." I stayed quiet. Let him speak. "We need you," he said again. Not angrily. Desperately. I closed my eyes. And then I said the sentence I had been practicing in my heart. "I love you," I said. "But I am not coming back to fix this." His voice sharpened. "So you're choosing yourself over us?" I opened my eyes. "No," I replied. "I'm choosing myself with you, just not instead of me." He scoffed. "That doesn't make sense." "It will," I said, "when you stop needing me to carry it all." There was a long silence. Then something unexpected. His voice cracked. "I'm scared," he said. That stopped me. Not because it pulled me back, but because it showed me the truth. "I know," I replied softly. "So was I for years." He whispered. "I didn't know." "I know," I said. "But now you do." He asked the question that used to undo me. "So what do we do now?" I leaned back in my chair and answered calmly. "You figure it out," I said. "And I cheer for you from where I stand." He didn't like that answer. I could hear it. But he didn't argue. After the call, my hands shook. Just a little. I let them. Strength doesn't mean numb. That afternoon, my daughter came again. This time, she didn't bring anything. Just herself. I think he finally understands, she said. Good, I replied. She sat quietly, then said, I don't want to lose you. I looked at her. You won't, I said. But you will lose access to the version of me who disappeared. She nodded. I think that's fair. We sat in silence for a while. Comfortable. Different. When she left, she hugged me. Brief. Respectful. No clinging. No guilt. That evening, I went to a small gathering in the common room. Nothing fancy. Tea. Conversation. Laughter. Someone asked what I used to do. I smiled. I raised a family, I said. And now I'm raising myself. They laughed. But I meant it. Back at the house, the kids did homework without me. Dishes got washed late. Arguments ended unresolved. And somehow, they survived. That night, my phone buzzed one last time. A message from my son. I'm angry, but I'm trying. I smiled softly. That's enough for now, I replied. I turned off the light and lay down. Peace wrapped around me like a blanket. Not perfect, but real. I realized something then. Love doesn't mean being needed. It means being chosen. And for the first time, I chose myself without losing anyone. Tomorrow would bring the final chapter. Not of conflict, but of arrival. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The morning I woke up without waiting for anyone's call, I knew something had changed for good. Not outside. Inside. I didn't rush out of bed. I didn't check my phone. I didn't rehearse conversations that hadn't happened yet. I simply breathed. And for the first time in years, that breath felt like it belonged to me. I made my tea and sat by the window, watching the sun rise slowly over the buildings. No drama. No noise. Just light showing up exactly when it was meant to. Back at the house, they were waking up too. Not smoothly. Not perfectly. But differently. My daughter made breakfast without asking for help. Burned the toast. Laughed at herself. The grandchildren teased her. My son cleaned the pan without complaint. Small things. But new. They didn't talk about me much anymore. Not because I was forgotten, but because they were finally learning to stand without leaning. That afternoon, my daughter came to visit again. This time, she didn't look nervous. She didn't come with guilt. She came with presence. I don't need anything today, she said as she sat down. I just wanted to see you. I smiled. That's how it should be, I replied. We walked together around the courtyard. She told me about her week. The kids. The house. The mess. The progress. I never realized how much you carried, she said quietly. I nodded. I didn't either, I replied. Not until I put it down. Later that day, my grandchildren visited too. One by one. Not all at once. No chaos. No noise. They hugged me. Not out of habit. Out of choice. Grandma, the youngest, said, "You're happier." I smiled down at him. Yes, I said. And so are you. He thought about that. Then nodded. That evening, my son came. Last. Always last. He stood in the doorway for a moment. Then stepped inside. I'm not here to ask you back, he said. I studied his face. He meant it. I just wanted to say, I see it now. I didn't rush him. Didn't interrupt. You were holding everything together, he continued. And when you stopped, we had to learn. He swallowed hard. I'm still learning. I nodded. That's enough, I said. We sat in silence for a moment. Then he said something that surprised us both. I'm proud of you. That word used to feel heavy. Now it felt light, because I no longer needed it to stand. When he left, I didn't feel empty. I felt complete. That night, I sat alone and opened my notebook one last time. I read every page, every moment, every lesson, and I wrote the final entry. I gave them everything I had. Then I gave myself permission to live. The next morning, I rearranged my room, moved the chair closer to the window, hung my favorite photo, planted flowers outside my door. People stopped by. Neighbors, friends, new connections. They didn't know my past. They didn't need to. I wasn't rebuilding my old life. I was living a new one. Weeks passed. Then months. The family found balance. Not perfect, but real. They called. They visited. They respected. And when they crossed lines, I spoke. Calmly, clearly, without fear of being abandoned. Because I had already survived being left. By myself. One afternoon, sitting on my balcony, I realized the truth. I didn't break free to punish them. I broke free to save myself. And in doing so, I taught them how to love me properly. Not by force. Not by fear. Not by silence. But by standing. And that is how my story ends. Not with applause. Not with revenge. But with peace. With dignity. With a woman who finally chose herself. And never apologized for it again.